And we're here with Alan. Say hello.
Hi, Alan Spaeth.
Never heard of him.
Yeah, I'm new here.
It is Parent Preview Day.
It is Pair Preview Day. So what we're doing right now is we tonight talk through the show and what is going on in the show and what we're trying to accomplish. And so Alan is here, which is awesome. And so we figured this is a perfect time you can kind of talk about, because the show came from your brain and the ideas and all that stuff about what is it we're trying to do as we work through this thing.
Yeah, well, the show came through basically years of after our initial rise to, the success that we had in the activity, trying to find our way back to enjoying ourselves and getting back to what it felt like during those earlier years.
Yeah.
And I feel like once we really started to get enmeshed in the competitive arena, we sort of lost our way trying to get to be more perfect. And that was never our initial goal. Our goal had always been to be more artistic and trying to find a balance. So trying to find a show that we could work with this year, I stumbled across the sort of Japanese philosophy called wabi-sabi, which is embrace imperfection, make art to do art the best you can and enjoy the beauty of it, even if it's not perfect. And I thought, that sounds like a good, at least mental starting point for how we would, put this show together. And then just using sort of that Japanese philosophy, finding other Japanese cultural things that we could tie in and make it something cohesive. And then I started researching Japanese wind ensemble music and found a piece from Hun Nagao.
Yes.
I think
I
is that
think
the right way to?
I think so. He does, because he publishes some in the United States. So I think in the United States he does go by James. I think it says James Nagao or Jim Nagao.
Okay.
But yes.
Yeah.
But he lives in Japan.
In Japan. And I found a piece that was competitive wind ensemble piece, because apparently in Japan they compete wind ensemble.
They do. They have like wind ensemble festivals, like how we have marching contests.
When they do that all Japan, I mean it's crazy good. It's
and
it's impressive.
I mean it's their they compose music for it.
Right.
The brass band world does that.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting that they write pieces specifically at a shorter length wind ensemble piece that's meant for competition. So it has a lot of elements and it's meant to be a shorter subject piece. And so I started listening to them and I heard this piece and I thought, this just sounds like Flower Mound. This sounds like so many of the things we've done before, because Flower Mound loves a good fanfare, whether we need one or not.
Whether we need one or not.
And it started with a fanfare, and I laughed because I thought, oh God, Wayne's going to love this. And then I just listened to it, and it had really great melodic lines, and it was kind of all over the place in a good way. And I thought, we're always trying to piece together things, and this was just something that stood on its own.
And I think we all had that same response to it when you sent it to us. We all, like everybody on their first listen, you felt the same way. We were like, no, this is it. This is great.
Wayne didn't at first because I sent him the wrong piece of music.
Yeah, that's right. He was like, I don't think this is going to work.
I don't think this is going to work. And I looked and I go, oh, Wayne, that's wrong, actually. Here's and he goes, oh, this one's good.
So it may have been our shortest. May have been our shortest. Well, I mean, it was our shortest music meeting ever, of course. And then because we had decided. I mean, before everybody was all in. Usually our process is to sit in a room and everybody brings a million ideas musically to the table. I mean, there's usually a concept in place, and we hash it out all day long. But this one was.
Yeah.
It was important that everybody was on board.
Yeah,
but
this one spoke to everybody.
The minute I heard it, I thought, I felt energized, especially with the concept of, it's like, okay, I have two elements that are Japanese, what's a third? And then the Yo-Yo Kusama is so popular right now. And the work is so chaotic and kind of free and fun, which is also an element of Flower Mound that, when we are having a good time and the audience is having a good time, I feel like we're at our best.
Yes.
And I thought her imagery and her philosophy and her style was so kooky that, but respected in a way, and has popular interest, right now especially, that is also something we could play off of. And I just thought this piece of music was a perfect blend of being able to start kind of serious and almost where we're at right now, where it's like, this activity is making us crazy. Let's find a way to make it more fun. And so the very first thing we do in the show is peel the field up. We just take the field, we lift it off the ground, and we turn it into not straight lines. And that's what the whole part of the first thing is like. We're going to take this activity that's all straight lines and all organized, and we are going to unorganize the football field, but we're going to do it in a way that's interesting to watch.
Right.
And so the very first move in the show, 70 pieces of the field get peeled up off the floor, and we replace them in different places.
Right.
And move them around. And so it's sort of the chaosness of taking apart the field and making the lines not all organized, but still in a way that's fun to watch and exciting. And so the opener has lots of crazy motion and movement and a lot of activity and things moving in and out of each other. It's very linear.
Which we always talk about this. I think one of the things when, with you, Alan, is that you're always like, it's always like changing the environment, taking a football field, which is not meant for yes, that's where we perform, but it's meant for football. And then just completely and totally transforming the environment, and bringing, and so, that we start out with that, I just, which is what, we went to San Francisco. We went to
Sanda something.
We went to California. And went to the
We did, and
Kusama
I have
exhibit.
footage actually that I can put that we
But
took
it was,
there that we can put
it
some
was
of that
the
in
exhibit was it was an all immersive. It was like going into the room, and it was it was changing your environment, and so much so that you were only allowed a certain number of minutes within this.
It was 2 minutes. Because Mitch joked about it before we went in. He goes, "Well, we all showed up here. What, we're just going to go in like a room for 2 minutes?" And the lady goes, "Yes."
Yes.
Oh, but that was enough. It was
Enough.
crazy. Wayne, tell them where we are.
We are at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, MoMA.
We are here doing inspirational research for the Marching Band Show 2024.
That guy.
Here we are.
That guy.
That guy.
We hope to immerse ourselves in the art and spirit of Yayoi Kusama.
This one is insane. This is wild.
This is the end.
And well, that's the philosophy that art is temporary.
Yeah.
And so in our closing production is 2 minutes. You only get to experience one of our productions for that same amount of time, and it has to be impactful enough that you're going to remember it beyond those 2 minutes. And that's what I loved about it. It's not like you're going to sit in here for an hour and try to absorb it all, because honestly, it's about how you feel at the very first impact of the moment. And and that's part of the wabi-sabi thing. The longer you look at something, the more flaws, or the more, then you start looking for things that are wrong, instead of, when you see something for the first time, how special that is.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a great exhibit in that way. And I think it was important to go see that live. But for me, marching band, I have a hard time pretending we're not on a football field, and trying to use the football field, but then to alter, but not pretend that we're not there. It's right. It's hard to do, put down a picture of something and then you're supposed to pretend we're in Rome or something. And we've done that before. But I think where we've been most successful is when we acknowledge our surroundings and say, this is a football field, we're a marching band, but we're doing a show that's a combination of, marching band and, moving art at the same time. So the show, basically, as we devolve the show, the reason I wanted to start with all the straight lines and things is I knew that we eventually wanted to get to the Yayoi Kusama art, or that sort of feeling of her philosophy that she loves polka dots, because everything in the universe, every star, every planet, every person from a distance is just a dot, and there's billions and billions of stars and people and in the universe, and it's just her way of expressing that, when you back up from something, everything is just a dot. It's just, nothing, but there's so many of them, and it's sort of such a simple thing, and the circle and the dot, the furthest thing away from that is a line. So our show starts with everything super linear. We tear it up, we move it around, and then from that we become all these individual little dots moving around, just like drill is a dot, and the kids are a dot.
Actually, yes, we call them dots.
On your
yes,
dot.
Get on your dot, yeah.
And then just going the other extreme, and the show gets more playful, a little less, I don't want to say organized, but a little less linear and a little freer, in terms of the structure of the show, and then the rigidity of the drill, and it just, the whole idea is that the closer is just a big celebration of life and fun and color, and of course, we have a costume change again.
No, come on.
We decided the years where we were just trying to clean our dots and didn't want to do anything that caused us stress, that we love stress, apparently. It's what motivates us.
I think that's something that's important. I mean, we went through, I think we've all worked together for so long. I mean, how long now? I mean, is it 15 years?
Yeah, I think is season 15.
Yeah, Alan's been here longer than I have.
By a year.
Yeah, you beat me.
I know.
Yeah.
But I think it's important. You go through that, I don't know, the whole design thing, and figuring it out. And one of the things that we all did is, you look at what's happening in the activity, and there's this idea, and dare I say, we hear excellence is effect from everybody, and I get that viewpoint. I do. We want excellence.
Well, we want our kids to execute, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But is that really the end all be? Is it?
Right.
Is it about? I mean, and I think that's what we all struggled with. Like, is it about just making a straight line, or is it about something more? Creativity, pushing past. Of course, we want to make straight lines, but But can there be some level of depth and
Absolutely.
If all you're, I think our philosophy, which never used to be a philosophy, if all you're looking for are problems,
right,
you will find them. And I think
absolutely.
it's a negative approach to teaching and design where all you're looking for is to not make any mistakes.
Right.
Where's the joy in that? Where's the the creativity?
Right.
It loses a little bit, and that's to say that you throw excellence out the window. You don't, because nobody wants to watch something done poorly.
Absolutely.
Right.
But at some point, if the only decision that you make is can you make it perfect,
Right.
or closer to perfect, or is it something that's right for the moment that the audience is going to enjoy, that the kids are going to get something from? If that's the decision, I think we've decided we will go with what we think is more interesting,
Yes.
or what brings more artistic value to the
Yes.
show, and then just be okay with letting the chips fall where they may.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And I think that, we also, we joke about this. It's 8 minutes. It's 8 minutes, and we started on it on August 1st. So we're going till, the beginning of November. And so it's 8 minutes. And we're the ones that have to do it every single day. If
Right.
we're really just trying to get kids to, and there are days that we're cleaning a form, for sure. There are many days we are, but we are also trying to be creative, and we're trying to teach our community something. I think, some of our favorite shows, those alumni and those alumni parents will still send us text messages and Facebook messages about surrealism. Hey, I just saw pictures of, the melting clock, and I thought of you guys. How does that? We taught an entire community about surrealism. I didn't know that clouds were a hallmark of surrealism.
Or eggs.
Or
I tell
or
people
eggs.
all the time.
Yeah.
That meeting was one of my favorite because we were at your place in Chicago, and you're like, let's go to the Art Institute. And I remember walking through the art, and you're like, see the skies and this one. And in my mind, I'm like, what are we doing?
Right.
And then we went to Millennium Park, and you go, see these faces, and I want to have a big ear. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Well, and then
we're going to have an
and now
ear?
I just think it's so cool that obviously the kids love their show,
Right.
and we love their show, but we're teaching a whole community. Our fine arts director, Ms. Drinkwater, sends me a link to a Louis Vuitton purse that's Yayoi Kusama.
Right.
We're exposing an entire community to an artist that maybe some of us would have known and maybe some of us wouldn't. And isn't that the whole point, is to, it's music and art and making sure that, the kids are growing and we're growing and the community's growing, and what a cool thing.
And I think a lot of it, the message of the artwork and the philosophy is important too, that we're going to do our best, and we're not going to strive to be as perfect as we can be, but we aren't going to beat ourselves up and kill each other for not being perfect.
Right.
Because that
Yes.
and I think those years, the earlier years where we were trying new things, at the time it seemed like this is what was stressing us out. And then when we stopped, when we thought, okay, well, we know the process of how to get it good.
Right.
We know how to make them sound good and march in straight lines, and to make it seemingly to make everyone's lives easier, sort of shying away from anything that was too innovative or hard to put together. It ended up being that wasn't the problem. I think we all enjoy trying new things.
Yes.
And trying to, how is this, when somebody says, how is this going to work? My answer is usually, I don't know if it is. It
no
might
idea.
not.
Right.
But I do think the one thing that's always been successful for us, and why things work here with you guys, is if there is a problem, the answer isn't we can't do that. The answer is, okay, how do we fix it, or what can we do? Or that didn't work. Let's pivot and do the best we can with this.
Right.
And instead of getting so locked into everything being so figured out right from day one, which if you want a show that's just lays down perfectly, that's you can do that, but there's no risk in there's not a lot of creativity involved in that. So part of the process of, last night spending, 3 hours kind of ripping apart a whole section of the show, it just wasn't reading how I thought the music sounded, and, but we took a second stab at it, and I think it's so much better and so much more interesting.
I also think that's so important. I think as a teacher, that's what kids need to get out of this process. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like the kids are not, are they little drones, or are they people who think and do? And we're trying to foster, like, the kids see, like, hey, this didn't work, and last night they're like, okay, let's mess with this, do this, try this, whatever, go over. There's value. I think there's value.
There's a lot of value in that, and the kids, and they've come a long way. I mean, when we first started doing this. Even it is a learning process, and it's a good life skill to know that sometimes you have to pivot, and sometimes things aren't going to go your way. Do you give up or just accept it, or do you try to make it better, or try to adjust, or make improvements, without blaming somebody or making it a thing? And I do know that, I think before we started, you huddled them together and probably told them, nobody, just do what you're told.
Talking about. Yeah, well, we talk to the kids about, we as a staff, like you referenced, we say it out loud in the office, like, we aren't going to say no to the creative team. We're going to just try. And that's what we're just going to do it. Like, because the other way, if we do say no, then that stifles creativity. There's lots of things. In our inner monologue, there's many times over the year that I wanted to, like, are you crazy? Like, no, we can't do that. But we make a commitment that we're not going to do that, and we're going to try, and some really incredible things have come out of it. When you are here, when, Jim Moore is here, when Wayne is here, we talk to the kids about those same things. So what I told the kids last night in the huddle before was, like, okay, he's gonna work on the second production. Do not ask questions. Just do to the best of your ability, and we just try. And if you don't do it correctly, then he knows that he has to say it a different way. And, like, okay, and we go to the extreme. We tell them, like, if he says, go from the 50-yard line to the 10-yard line in 8 counts, you go, I'll try, and then you just do it, and clearly you're not going to accomplish that, and then he goes, all right, well, let's try something else, and so part of that is working through that process, last night. And so I was down on the field with them while you guys were up in the press box, and some of them, it is good, like, we're teaching kids that. Some of them handle that really well. Some of them, that's really difficult. And it's some of our smarter, like, leader, like, type A.
Because they can't handle, and this is the biggest thing,
right?
Quote unquote failure, which is so important.
They want to please, and they want to do it correctly.
Everything right my whole life. Yeah, except you're not going to now. Yeah. I think about that. We had a bassoon player years ago, and I remember she would just cry, and she's like, I'm bad at bassoon. I'm like, yeah, you are. She goes, I'm going to quit. I'm like, no, you're not. You're good at everything.
Yeah.
You need to be bad at it. It's good for you to develop.
I'll give them a shout out on the video. Because I give them a hard time. We have these 2 amazing girls that are twins in the band that are seniors this year, the McAnally twins, and they are incredible musicians and incredible people, and they are high achieving students, and they both on the field last night, it was Miss Harvey, and I just make fun of them, and I say, oh, that's weird, a McAnally twin is asking to play. But it comes from a good place, but that's why, it's because they want to do it correctly, and they want us all to, they want to please, and they want to perform well, and so, for them, like that, this is an important lesson. No, we just experiment, and we try.
Right.
And so that's a great thing.
The only way to discover something new is to try something different.
Right.
And you don't know if something's going to work if you don't try it. And then if it doesn't work, that somewhere in the middle might be the answer. Yeah. And it still takes you to a new place. But, when we're up there trying to, make this work, I have to abandon thinking about every single thing that might make it not work, because then nothing's going to happen, because I'm going to find 20 reasons why this is not going to work, because this kid here. But I always say, like, I'd probably make sure, like, let's just do it. Let everybody just go. Let's see what happens. And the woodwind thing, the first time, did you freak out?
Yeah. I was like,
everybody's passing each other, running each other. And then I stopped and I thought, okay, there used to be there was one other place that they went before this. Let's find a different way to get there, and then I bet we can get here. And it was 5 minutes. If everyone was freaking out and having a panic attack, that would have been a 30-minute, oh my God moment.
Right.
But I needed to see, getting from here to here, I needed to see how that happened, and then I could figure out what the middle step needed to be. And
I
it's
think
hard
that's
to explain
important.
the process to everybody, and especially you can't go to 300 kids in the field and explain to them, now Bill, this is what's going to happen. You know, it takes all day, and so everyone the mental flexibility last night was really good.
And when you're not here, you know, in our day-to-day, it's we're very efficient with our time. Everything is scheduled out, what we're going to work on. We have a lesson plan, whatever. But I think that because we do that, I think it's also important that we as teachers know that, like, when our design people are in, that we give you the flexibility to be able to experiment and create. We do the same thing. We allow the same thing for, you know, when our choreographers are in, or, you know, our music people are in. I mean, they're not going to, you know, we're going to, you know, maximize next week, and the music side of people will be in, but we give them the flexibility to experiment and create in their own medium.
Yeah, and that's important too,
Yeah.
because, and especially the way we're working it this year, in the past, what we've done was like, let's just get it out there and then we'll go back and fix stuff later. That's, you know, I think that you end up ingraining things and really cleaning it and getting muscle memory and things into a part of the show that we know is never going to work.
Right.
And it just wastes a lot of time. But the one thing about taking time to, you know, there's a million things that have to be done in the season, musically, whatever, but taking time to make a section right or to get a transition right now means you don't have to do it again later. Or you never know, making something right as you go, then, you know, you can't really fix it later because it affects everything that comes after it.
Right.
So I think we've really done a good job this year of getting each production right. The things that we normally would do, like just recognizing really early on, like that's just not going to be what we have envisioned, even if it's going to make us sloppier right now.
Right.
It's going to make us better in the end. And I think those years where we're like, no, it's got to be perfect, it's got to be perfect, you just accept something like, well, it's not very exciting, or that's not a very good part of the show.
Right.
Moving right along,
Right.
you know, let's just keep going. So I think, that's going to really work to our advantage.
Okay, we're not debuting the whole show tonight because we don't know. We're almost done in the learning process. Almost done. Okay, but even with the stuff that you know, what's your favorite part of the show? Do you have a favorite moment?
I did until last night, and then seeing it in uniform, I have lots of different thoughts now. I have to say, this is weird for me because this is a whole show that I like the whole thing.
That's so rare.
Yeah, usually you're like, part one is terrible. Let's just get to the ballad, we're terrible at ballads, or why do we have to do? Yeah, he does really usually not like some of the show.
I love the beginning of the show. I think it's so interesting.
It came
seeing
to
it last
life
night.
in the costumes.
It really did.
I was like, oh, from the press box. I mean, we kept looking at each other like, oh, that was kind of cool.
You know,
it really started to.
Yeah, and it's weird for me to last night for the first time. All this, it's been in my head since last October.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's been a full year for me. to see it actually happen.
The kids love their costumes.
Yeah.
They put on their jackets for the first time last night, and they were all like twirling around. And
I know, because
the drum
we were
majors,
like, you guys shut
yeah,
up. And
the
get
drum
your
majors,
stuff."
the drum majors were like yelling from the podium, get to the field, and they're like twirling, and I was like, you guys.
Yeah, when the very first thing, when the yard lines lift up and there's 70 of them.
Yeah.
I was like, we just start with like a really.
And then they go to the back and they place them.
I mean,
and I'm like,
you guys know that of course I love a good double swing flag moment, so it's coming. We're not there yet.
We are not there
but
yet.
I have a feeling that might be my favorite. But right now, I think my favorite is when the big 7-foot flags, the big polka dots are introduced.
Yeah.
I think it's just so different than anything else I've seen, and it's because the kids are in grayscale for the beginning of the show, and so just that striking, like that color introduction to me, I just think of what we're doing, of what we're debuting tonight. I think that's my favorite part. So.
It's sort of, that's the part of the show of us letting go of the just the trying to be perfect and the structure and everything so linear and
well, and that's where everything's in a scatter, and they're doing all. It's cool. I mean, that choreographically with like the change and the cheese, and then there's the dots out there, and as that all starts to come to life.
We learned during COVID. You can have bell covers.
Of course. Well, okay. Well, we should say this because you wanted to do bell covers.
Before COVID.
And we were like,
surreal.
No,
yes, and we cannot do that.
We wanted to put the apple on their horns because it would have been awesome.
And then clearly,
COVID
I remember
happened.
you saying, you can never tell me we're not doing bell covers again.
And so we will introduce a bell cover because there's polka dots, and so the kids will introduce a ton of polka dots. So anyway, I just think it's just great. We're very excited about everything. So.
And that's one of my favorite parts musically in the show. There's a lot of things I love, but I always, when in this wind ensemble piece during the second movement, the trumpets get up and leave the stage.
Yes.
And I'm watching the video thinking, what? This is really weird. And there's a whole section that they play from off stage.
Yes.
And I thought, it's such a neat moment. And then that's the part we got, and it just, in my head, it's such an important thing because that's where everybody just says, forget it. We're letting go, and let's have more fun, and let there be more color and more joy.
Well, and it's
kind of like everyone.
6 different trumpet parts that are layered on top of themselves and played off stage, it's not organized.
No, it sounds like
it's not supposed to. It's just all layered. I mean, it's really.
They play it off the corner, the back corner. Yeah, it sounds.
The mental breakdown. That's the forget it. I give up. And then the woodwinds come in with this really beautiful underlying melody that starts the mellophones going, and it just adds. It starts to come together as a different thing. And that's the transition point of the whole show. It was so important to me that the show right there made that transition from, angst and, perfection and, almost angry about like that we have to this activity is so structured, and just saying forget it. We're going to go back and we're going to have fun, and we're going to interject some color and some fun, and we have kids that were making wander around the field with these big dots, and it just then the show, it just becomes a whole different show in 8 counts. When the band turns around and the flags open up there, it's the show. It's like last night that was a great moment too. It's like, okay, this is going to be fun.
Yeah.
Well, and I think people, everybody says other band directors people will say like marching band is so hard, and that's what does some people in and things like that. But I think what we're like to other band directors, like this is why it's fun for us still, is to be able to create with you,
Yeah,
to be able,
creative aspect.
It's the creative aspect of it, we get, climbing on a school bus and all of those things that's day to day is hard, but this is what kind of keeps us going, is the creative aspect of everything.
And I think for the membership too, for the kids, I mean, it's a long season for them too. And if they're and they were part of the process last night.
Right.
I mean, we didn't tell every single kid what to do. We,
right.
Yelled, here's your.
Yeah, you told the tubas to follow the leader. They did. And then you're like, what are the tubas doing? I'm like, you said follow the leader.
Sometimes it goes well. Sometimes it does well.
How'd they end up over there?
Yeah. Yeah. There's still a lot to work out. But they got to be part of making that work last night. There isn't time to teach every single kid all that, and that's why it's different. Yeah. And not everybody can do it. It takes a long time, to structure an environment where, doing things by committee isn't always easy. Sometimes it's harder, and it's finding a balance of, but the students here are part of the process. They problem solve so many of the logistical things that we probably don't even think about. But last night during the costume change, sometimes when you're up top, it just seems like no one's listening or this. But I was walking sort of through them, and I heard them all trying to find a better way. Like, we can do this, and let's make this, and they were trying to figure out a way to make it happen, to make the show better, and then helping each other. They weren't talking about what they were going to do, with their day off, and or what's going on in school. They were down there trying to make the show better. So that's a thing that my very first year here trying to teach one movement thing, I gave up after 5 minutes because it wasn't going to happen.
Right.
The environment has to allow for that, and that's what's great about this place, for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to see it tonight. Yeah, I don't know. It's there's so many great parts of this show and I've only ever seen kind of once a run through. Last night was the closest thing because we stopped in between. It's funny because it's a show that I can't wait to see it today. I'm not like, oh my God, we have an hour rehearsal, or I'm not stressed that, oh my God, this is going to be a disaster tonight. I think it's going to be great to watch no matter what happens, and I can't wait to see it all in uniform with everything out there and the.
We would like for them to play together. So nothing. I mean, there's some things we care about what happens.
Yes, yeah.
They would all stay together, and that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
If people could be in step.
They'll be fine.
You know what? We're in the library because we knew we would get interrupted.
Amazing.
But look,
you got to turn the camera.
That's last year's show.
Yeah, it's our amazing librarian.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
Oh, that is.
That's on the wall. That's our panel. One of our panels from last year's show.
Yes, she
That's
really.
Awesome. Did she come?
Miss Story wanted it. Yeah, her. I mean, is that the best librarian name, Miss Story?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, was a band kid. She loves the band, and so we were when we were finished. She asked, "What are you doing with those panels?" And so we made sure that she had one. She picked the one that she wanted, and
that's awesome.
She had the district install it up there. So.
That's great.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. She says it's her favorite thing in the library after the books.
Okay.
Which, I mean, she really
she's the librarian, so.
Yeah. I mean, she's legally obligated to say that.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well.
That's it.
Yeah.
Tonight.
Let's do it.
We'll see what happens.